I've instructed the intelligence community and the Attorney General to use this transition period to develop options for a new approach that can match the capabilities and fill the gaps that the Section 215 program was designed to address without the government holding this itself. And during this period, I will consult with the relevant committees in Congress to seek their views and then seek congressional authorization for the new program as needed. I'm also calling on Congress to authorize the establishment of a panel of advocates from outside government to provide an independent voice in significant cases before the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court.
We are back in the guest spot with more on today's surveillance news with Congressman Peter Welch, a Democrat on the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. And if you could just start with some reactions to the speech, and what do you see Congress's role in all of this going forward?
Well, it's a beginning, but a very slim beginning. And Congress has been as passive in this as anyone else, and it's time for Congress to get aggressively involved. Essentially, what you have is the balance between security and privacy is totally out of balance, and Congress has abdicated its responsibility. Second, you've got the NSA that essentially has had an unlimited budget with non-existent oversight. And that is a bad cocktail for preserving constitutional protections. So I'd like to see Congress do three things, and I wish the President would support all of these. One, pass the Leahy-Sensenbrenner bill, which would end the bulk government collection of this metadata. I mean, this is astonishing to have all our emails, all our text, all our phone logs in the hands of the government. And as the President said, it's not about who the President is. It's about whether we have constraints on whoever holds that office. The second thing we need to do, we've got to publish what the budget is of each of these 16 intelligence agencies. These are black box budgets. The American people have no idea what the budget is of the NSA, CIA, DIA. Even members of Congress don't. And if we go through the procedural hurdles to find out what that budget is, we have to promise not to tell you or the people we represent. Yeah. So unless you have knowledge about the budget, you won't get the attention of these agencies. And then third, we've got to eliminate the gag order on these companies like Yahoo and Google that are asked by the government or told by the government to turn over data. And there's two reasons for that. One is privacy, but the second is this is going to really unravel the economic significance of these companies if our European and Asian competitors use that as the reason to ban them from competing for contracts that are important to our economy.
Yeah, and Congressman, we want to look at your budget proposal in a moment. You mentioned that this Congress has been passive. That's certainly true on oversight and accountability. I would go further, though. I would say that they have been aggressive in propping up these telephone companies and basically giving a blank check to work in secret law with the NSA, most famously in granting them immunity in 2008. Now I know that was before your time, and I know you're talking about changing this. But how hard is it to work with a Congress that basically has looked at this issue and said, you know what, the most important thing is to keep the corporations protected, right, rather than actually, to your point about the gag order and other things, have a public debate here? And specifically, are there going to be hearings and votes on any of this soon?
Well, first of all, you're right. And I was in Congress, but I voted against that. I mean, that's appalling to keep all that secret. But here it is changing. Keep in mind that Jim Sensenbrenner was the Republican chairman of the Judiciary Committee. He's a very respected person. And he wrote the Patriot Act. But his interpretation of what law that he sponsored and passed is that the NSA has totally overreached with its own interpretation or its secret approval with the secret FISA court, that the authority granted in that FISA Act allowed the government to get the metadata. He's against that. And he and Senator Leahy are leading the effort to clarify that in the law. Secondly, the Congress you spoke about is changing. You know, on the budget proposal that I have with Cynthia Lummis, a conservative Republican from Wyoming, we have very conservative Republicans and very liberal Democrats who are coming together on two issues. One, we're saying, hey, the constitutional protection of privacy has got to be protected, and we've got to stand up. So you're seeing a new coalition develop in Congress. And then secondly, this idea that It's a black box budget so that you as members of the press, the people I represent as constituents, the taxpayers whose money it is, we don't even know how much year-over-year increases they're getting. I mean, that's just unacceptable. So I'm seeing a new dynamic in Congress. And keep in mind, Justin Amash's proposal that would have ended the metadata only failed in the House by a couple of votes.
Well, Representative, you mentioned the need for more transparency around budgets that are, as of now, classified as top secret. This is legislation you've rolled out this week. You wrote a personal letter to President Obama, and it has bipartisan support and is backed by a number of heavy hitters in the intelligence community. Where do you see this going, and how might this change the conversation?
Well, I think we've got a shot at it. I really do, because we're going to have a broad coalition of conservatives and liberals in Congress. That's number one. Number two, somebody like Lee Hamilton, who is an incredibly respected person, makes the point about why this is necessary. He says the intelligence community is not going to take oversight seriously until you link it to the budget.
Exactly.
And, of course, that's true throughout government. Whether it's the highway program or the intelligence program, the power of the budget is where you grab the advocates' attention. So I think Lee Hamilton makes a really good point. And everyone knows we're not talking about sources and methods. You know, if you have a local police investigation or a national security investigation, you don't want to intrude on the sources and methods. But some of these macro policies that really affect your constitutional rights and mine, those have to be debated. And that's the only way you're going to get some reasonable balance between security and privacy.
So, Congressman, if you get that transparency that you're looking for, then what next? Will you be looking to have us spend a little bit less on intelligence or spend that differently? What would be the next step?
Well, I don't know. You know, we don't even know what the budget is. But here's what you do know. We spend billions and billions of dollars. That's number one. Number two, you know, we have 16 independent agencies, in many cases, doing the same thing. So obvious questions, even from a managerial standpoint. Is there duplication? Are they running into each other? Is there cooperation? Is there coordination? And if this was 16 different, like, say, food stamp programs or 16 different highway programs or education assistance programs, everyone would be saying, why do we need 16? But since we don't even know how much we're spending and we're not entitled to kick the tires on the budget, nobody knows. So it just grows and metastasizes. And then it took a Snowden revelation for the American people and even members of Congress to have a clue as to what some of these policies are that are really way over the edge.
All right, Congressman Peter Welch, thank you so much.